is going on, y'all? It is the Caveman back at it again with another video, and I'm happy to be bringing you episode number 3 of Coach Me Up. This week, I had my man Arich on the channel. He is the co-founder of the Built in Buffalo team. Arich was a pleasure to have on the channel, let me tell you. He is an awesome content creator and an even better person. Arich is just an all-around fantastic guy. Be sure to go show him some love. I'll have his Twitter down in the description below. He also does numerous live shows over on the Built in Buffalo YouTube channel, so be sure you're subscribed over there to make sure you never miss out on those. Unfortunately, as you'll be quick to find out, we had some connection issues throughout the episode, which was fine. It did not affect the audio, but it did affect the visuals just a little bit. But to be quite honest, I really wasn't too worried about it because, like I said, the audio was just fine and the conversation was perfect. The conversation was awesome. It was flowing just like it always is with this series. This series is killer, man. I'm really loving doing it, and my guests are just making it that much better. So I just want to say thank you to Arich for joining the channel. Once again, it was a pleasure to have him on. And I can't say it yet, but one day these episodes will be sponsored by mods. I'm telling you, I'm so determined to get mods to sponsor me. I'm so determined to get mods to even acknowledge my existence on Twitter first. Let's not jump to a sponsorship. I just want them to acknowledge my existence on Twitter. I at them all the time. Mods will realize how much I love their damn applesauce one day, I promise you. Also, one more quick thing before I get into it. You guys know how it goes at this point. We got Devil's Advocate. I bring up a controversial topic. We have conversation going back and forth. No matter which side my guest takes, I have to be the devil's advocate in the conversation. Everybody knows how that game goes. And then we also got 2-minute drill, which has been a staple up to this point. I ask 5 questions in a span of 30 seconds. I increased it to 30 seconds because I felt like 25 wasn't long enough. I really have to smooth out how I want this game to go, but once I do, it will be a hit. That one's here to stay. And I added a third new game to the Coach Me Up series. This new game that I really think is actually going to stick is called Brain Freeze. Brain Freeze is a game I just came up with out of the blue. I'm not sure how I did it. I just was sitting on the couch. It popped in my head. Nevertheless, Brain Freeze is a game in which I bring up a scenario that has happened in a football game before to my guest, except I alter the scenario just a little bit. I'll have 3 scenarios that I bring up to my guest, so I have one easy one, one medium one, and one hard one. For the sake of example, so you get the gist, I will bring up a scenario such as the Buffalo Bills drafted Josh Rosen with their 7th overall pick in the 2018 draft, and then I'll ask my guest, is this 100% correct? Obviously, that's not correct. We drafted Josh Allen, but that's the idea. That's how the game is going to go. I bring up a football scenario, something that has happened in the past. I will describe it to them. They have to figure out if there's anything wrong with it or not. I'm telling you, once I get all of these kinks straightened out with the series, it's going to be the smoothest sailing ship on this platform. I'm telling you, I think there's a lot of potential to be had with this series. I just have to figure out the kinks. I got to figure out how I want to do it on a consistent weekly basis. I think it could be killer. I just got to figure it out and smooth it out. Once I do, it's gonna do well. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed the 3rd episode of Coach Me Up. Once again, Arich was a pleasure. Let's get right into it. So welcome back to week 3 of Coach Me Up. This time around, I got my man Arich. He is one of the co-founders of the Built in Buffalo team. He's awesome to me, man. I love Arich. He's a fantastic guy. Just tell me what you do. Tell the viewers what you're all up to, man.
What's going on, Caveman Mike? Arich, Akeem Richens, co-founder of Built in Buffalo. And I'm just excited to be on your show, man. I'm excited to be on your show. I've been a big fan of yours for some time now, and I appreciate you for taking the invite to come into BiB because you are a talented individual and you could have took your talents a lot of places. So I definitely appreciate you.
Oh, thank you very much. It was the best decision I ever made, man. Being on this team, it truly feels like a family. I've only been on the team for, a month now, maybe a month and a half. It's the best decision I made, man. You guys make me feel right at home, and I appreciate that a lot.
Awesome, man.
All right, so let's get right into it. So before the recording started, Akeem did decide that he wanted to play Devil's Advocate as well as a new game that I came up with called Brain Freeze. So we'll start with the Devil's Advocate question. So over the past couple seasons, defensive pass interference has been something that the NFL has been playing with back and forth. Do you think that pass interference should be how it is now and remain a spot foul, or do you think it would help balance out the call if it was more like a 15-yard or 20-yard penalty?
You know what? I'm actually feeling like college football have that type of direction in terms of pass interferences and spot fouls. I believe they are correct. 15-yard assessment to a pass interference is a a great deal, in my opinion. I don't think 50-yard bombs and spot fouls and pass interferences in those cases, even though the NFL has been doing it for some time, I think if you want to correct some things, that is one thing they can correct. Take college football's 15-yard spot foul and throw it in the NFL equation.
Right. And since this is devil's advocate, I am, bound by the rules of the game to take the other side. So if they did make it a 15-yard penalty, 20-yard penalty, whatever it might be, if they did some college rule changes, brought it into the NFL, don't you think maybe DBs would really take advantage of that? Maybe they're running with a receiver downfield, maybe 30, 35 yards, maybe even deeper. They can get really handsy if they really wanted to, that deep down the field. Do you think that's something that would, be problematic?
No, I think it would make football again. Offenses in all the sports have the advantage of all calls in all the sports. Why not give the defense some advantages as well? And I think if they are able to run with the receiver a little bit longer, I believe if they get to be a little handsy, we get to see some football, because offensive players not being able to be touched are easily available to make plays, and we could shift that back to the D-backs a little bit.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I guess another concern that would probably come with, maybe making it only a spot foul. Do you think guys that are maybe on the shorter end of things would, I wouldn't say really interfere, but I think it might create issues where it could almost get a little dirty, maybe a little farther down the field. Guys that know their beat, they can come back. We've seen, not too often, but we've seen players, they get dirty when they want to make a play, when they're kind of beat, they might do something a little dirty. They can come down low to get a guy that's jumping high to get a ball. I don't know, just something along those lines. If they know the repercussion might not be that spot foul, they might do something a little out of line as well. I understand, maybe a different flag could be thrown in that instance, but it could create, I do think, some problems if they were to make it a 15 to 20 yard penalty.
See why I disagree here is because we saw college football. We've been watching college football for a long time, and I think, especially with the pass interference call, I don't think that it hampers the defense or the offense any more than it does. I believe that it just gives the opposition or the defense, the opposing defense, some time to fight back. It gives them a reason to fight back. We see the NFL, everything is all to the offense, all on the offensive side. You can't hit the quarterback. You can't hit below the knees. You can't jam after 5 yards. You can't hit somebody, otherwise you're going to be hitting a defenseless receiver. All these rules are made to improve the game, but they also are advantages to the offense. Let's just give the defense some advantage.
Yeah, I've been having a little bit of a hard time trying to defend this take, because I would agree with you 100% of the time if it were not for the game. Right. But yeah, totally. It's one of those things where I really do think it could be abused. Absolutely. And I feel like the defense is really outmatched in scenarios like that. Even in scenarios maybe late in the game or something like that, a team knows that it might not be able to go that 75 yards in 15 or 20 seconds like they might have to, but they can just throw a deep ball down the field. Just hope to God that somebody pushes somebody from behind, or somebody goes over the head. Something ridiculous that might happen. They can get that flag, and top of the fact that they get another untimed down. Even if that play happens when time expires, that flag is thrown. That's another advantage toward the offense. They get a whole nother play. It really is completely advantageous in favor of the offense. And I do think, going back on the point of just playing football, it might be good just to have some physicality back there. I think some safeties, some defensive backs, they're bigger, they're stronger. They don't want to have to, play nice with these receivers when they're going up for a ball. So, I would absolutely agree with the fact that it really should be only a 15 to 20 yard spot foul.
And if we was to implement, or if the NFL was to implement that spot foul, who would be the biggest beneficiaries? Slot cornerbacks. Slot cornerbacks would be the biggest beneficiaries. Why? Outside cornerbacks have the boundary. They have that out of bounds to play with to that sideline. Slot cornerbacks in this NFL today, they can't touch, they can't hold, they can't grab, and slot receivers get to go in any direction, right? So that would definitely benefit the slot corners to be a little more aggressive and play a more aggressive. And I just think that should be, and this was a great topic, Caveman. I think that should be something that the NFL should look into.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder, like, why they went to the extent of allowing, replay, for coaches to go and review these penalties. And a big topic of conversation that came about when doing these reviews is it just makes the game so much longer. These coaches are throwing flags, and the game is, caused to be longer. So
right,
they went to the extent to try and implement a review, but you would think, why not try something else? If it really is that much of a pressing matter, why not, try and do something like this? I feel like there's more than enough of an example of college football where it does work. So it makes you wonder why they went the route of doing something that they've never done before instead of, maybe trying something that already has been proven to work.
Precisely.
Yeah, so it's an interesting topic for sure. It's kind of, I don't want to say an age-old question, but it's definitely something that's been a topic of conversation, especially ever since that Saints play.
So do you think, and I'm sorry if I'm going too long. So do you think do you think the NFL is on some bigger brother type of thing? They like, you know what? You're college. We're the NFL. We don't want to do what you do because you're college and we are indeed the NFL.
Absolutely. Especially maybe I'm not sure about the executives, the officials, those guys, the higher ups. But as far as the players go, you definitely get that sense. And I'm not an NFL player, obviously, but you just get the sense that they get to the league. These younger guys are getting to the league, and they're like, welcome to the show. Now you guys aren't playing. You're not playing college ball anymore. You got to get 2 feet down. You gotta be physical. You gotta really pull your pants up and get your deed done out here. This is no joke. I can absolutely see that. Maybe it's the same way with the higher ups as well.
Probably.
Yeah, nice. That's a good question too. Because you definitely get that sense with the players. These younger guys are coming on you, the rookie treatment, all this other shit. It's definitely a good point. Since we're doing so well on time, we might as well play all 3 games. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this on a week-to-week basis, but this week we're going to play all 3. So we're going to do 2-minute drill next. This game is pretty self-explanatory. You got 5 questions. I made it 30 seconds instead of 25, but we'll see how it goes. Alrighty, so here we go. What week does Justin Fields get the nod for his first start in the NFL?
4. Week 4.
Would you take Will Fuller over Cole Beasley?
No. I'm going to be biased and say no.
Where would you rank Odell amongst receivers as of right now?
Top 15 NFL wide receiver.
Over under 2.5 games that Jacoby Brissett has put in relief of Tua.
Ooh. Over
okay.
2.5. Yep.
And the last one, have you allowed yourself to somewhat like Tom Brady?
I will never have any compassion or any love for Tom Brady.
I had to ask. All right, so I just had to ask that one because the video. Let's go over the other ones. So you said week 4 was the first week that you see that Justin Fields could get his first start in the NFL. Do you have a reasoning behind that, or do you think it's just going to be when he feels like he wants?
Matt Nagy's been pounding the table that Andy Dalton is the starter. He's been saying that over and over, so he has to. Since he said that and he put that out there, he's going to have to stick with it a while. He can't be gung-ho because he went ahead and he made him the starter. He's going to have to give him a legitimate chance. And I believe 4 weeks, I think that first month, he gets that legitimate chance, Andy Dalton. And once Andy Dalton continues to struggle, I think he's going to take about a month. Then I think we're going to see Justin Fields for the duration.
4 weeks. All right. Yeah, I have just this weird feeling that Andy Dalton isn't going to do well, but I think he's going to do well enough where Matt Nagy isn't like, okay, we got to take him out. And I don't believe in Matt Nagy as being one of the better coaches in the league. In fact, I think he's probably one of the worst at this point, at least. And with that being said, I for some reason think Andy Dalton is going to do just well enough where Matt Nagy is going to keep him in for whatever reason, and maybe for the first half of the season up until their bye week, which is week 10, they're going to wait until then. So my guess would just be for the simple fact that Justin Fields doesn't see the starting position for a while, because I think Matt Nagy is going to want to defend his original decision. And if Andy Dalton isn't playing horrible, then it's going to make him look that much better, in hypotheticals.
I like it. When a rebuttal right quick. When I see Andy Dalton, I see Mitchell Trubisky. I see Nick Foles. I see myself taking off this white T-shirt, changing this T-shirt, and putting on the same white T-shirt.
Yep, honestly.
so that's what I see, and because of that, that's why I have a bit shorter leash. I'll be surprised if Andy Dalton is the starting quarterback week 10. If he's the starting quarterback week 10, that means the Chicago Bears are first place or damn near first place in the division.
Yeah. I mean, it would be. It's hard to imagine a scenario where Andy Dalton makes it that long. But I just don't know. You know, we saw an Andy Dalton who we all thought was going to be able to step into the role of Dak Prescott last year and somewhat fulfill it to, you know, maybe just some sort of decency. He was going to do, you know, maybe well because he had been an established starter for quite a long time. He was being, you know, deemed as one of the best backups in the league, and he went in and looked like a shell of his former self. So you would imagine that going from the Cowboys offense to the Bears offense, it's probably not going to be anywhere close to better. You know, what makes us think it's going to be better? And it's just one of those things where I just feel like it's going to go well enough that Matt Nagy is going to say, like, look, I made the right decision for 10 weeks. And then finally after the bye, he'll put in Justin Fields. But I don't know, just something that I've been thinking about lately that I wanted to ask.
And who knows, maybe they can have that good problem. I think for the Chicago Bears, that staff and their fans, they want that good problem. They want that Prescott, Tony Romo type problem that Dallas had a couple of years ago, right? They want to see their veteran have success on the football field, and then they want to see their rookie come in and be that successor. So we're going to see if the Chicago Bears can emulate what the Dallas Cowboys did a few years ago.
Yeah, that's actually a really good comparison too. I would say that's probably as close to the situation as you're going to get. So that would be, you know, pretty much a dream scenario for the Bears, to be perfectly honest. So maybe that, you know, I would probably go with a more conservative answer like week 4, but just going off on a little limb there and saying week 10 is what I would think. Next question I asked, would you take Will Fuller over Cole Beasley? Now, the reason I asked this question is because Nate Geary, I'm sure you know Nate Geary, pretty familiar name. He went on, I think it was Kyle Knapp's show on the Fanatics, and he said he would take, I'm not sure the context of it, but you know, from what they posted, Nate Geary said he would take Will Fuller over Cole Beasley. And I was just, for multiple reasons, confused by why he would say this, because, you know, they really don't serve the same purpose at the end of the day. And even when we're talking about the individual himself, I still think Cole Beasley is just ultimately the better receiver.
And you know what it is? And in my opinion, what it is and what Nate Geary's probably looking at, he's looking at speed and explosiveness.
Yeah.
What speed and explosiveness can blind some people. I'm not saying Nate Geary's blinded, but I'm pretty sure that is the main reason on why he picked Will Fuller over Cole Beasley. But at the same time, Will Fuller had performance-enhancing drugs. You know, so he had issues with that. Why he had issues with that? Well, he had issues with that because he can't stay healthy. You can't stay on the football field. So how productive can you be to your football team if you can't stay on the football field? And how much can we trust you if you back there taking performance-enhancing drugs? Yeah, so exactly. With Cole Beasley, he's not. Cole Beasley in this comparison is like comparing a wide receiver to an offensive lineman. Cole Beasley's the offensive lineman in this example. He's not sexy. He doesn't run a 4.3. Cole Beasley just gets the damn job done. Exactly. He has great hands. He can run every route in the route tree. He can run it to a T. And Cole Beasley is as tough as nails. If Cole Beasley is hurt, he has to be injured to not play that football game. If Will Fuller's hurt, he's not playing. Cole Beasley has to be injured not to play. So because of all those things and the sheer toughness of Cole Beasley, it's Cole Beasley by a country mile, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it should be, you know, what I don't even know how this conversation would even arise, but I would agree, like, it should be a no-brainer. Not to mention that I think, you know, Emmanuel Sanders isn't as fast and probably nowhere near as what he used to be, but I still think we have that kind of role already. We don't need Will Fuller to be booking it 50 yards downfield every play to draw safeties away. We just don't need that. He wouldn't fit here. You know, we need a Cole Beasley. You know, what Cole Beasley does for our football team is imperative to how our offense runs, week in and week out, drive after drive, Cole Beasley plays a very important role. Will Fuller is not coming in and doing that. So I'm not sure where Will Fuller would even fit in terms of what role he would play on this offense. And, who would fill in Cole Beasley's role then? Would Emmanuel Sanders go in the slot? Maybe. But who's to say that he's even filling that role just as well? And then Will Fuller goes outside. Just a very bizarre scenario. Why it came up, I don't know. And why you would take Will Fuller in the scenario we're in, I also don't know. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, most definitely, man. And again, Nate Gary is an excellent mind. He's an excellent talent himself, concept creator himself. But I think he's going off of the sheer fact that Will Fuller is fast and explosive. And don't get me wrong, I love that too. That's an attractive trait. Yeah. I love traits like that as well. But Cole Beasley, man, come on. He has an album. He has an album coming out.
Why? I know.
Cole Beasley, man. What's not to love?
That's what I mean. All right, so next question I asked, where would you rank Odell currently amongst wide receivers in the NFL? I believe you said top 15, right? If I'm not wrong. Yep. I'd agree. Unfortunately, like you said, what's going on with him in Cleveland, his injuries, his lack of volume has really kind of held him back. But I wanted to get your thoughts on that because people are, making their top 10 lists in this offseason. They're talking about top wide receivers in the league. People are so fast to throw a guy like Justin Jefferson in their top 10, which is fine. But for a person like me, we got guys like Odell Beckham Jr. who, in my opinion, are almost becoming underrated that I still, even though he's, been dealing with injury, been dealing with a lack of volume, I would put as far as talent goes over Justin Jefferson. Like who in their right mind is taking Justin Jefferson over a healthy Odell Beckham Jr. going into next season? I don't know if I can meet a person that would, maybe do that. Maybe you're the first person, but I just don't see how it's possible. People are so quick to forget how lethal Odell Beckham actually is.
I think Odell Beckham, before the injury, was one of the best wide receivers in this NFL. And I think he got a bad rap because of what happened with the New York Giants. And I believe that his play is affected by Baker Mayfield's play as a quarterback. Baker Mayfield is now we see him as that number one draft pick. But when Odell Beckham was on the field, he wanted to make it his business to get Odell Beckham the football, and that was a detriment to himself and Odell Beckham as well. So when you compound that injury, Odell Beckham is like a forgotten man, and we are all of creature of habits. Stephen A. Smith a week or two ago compared Devin Booker to Kobe Bryant because he had a good game and scored a lot of points. So we are affected by what we see last, and I believe, especially in the generation we are in now, they've seen Justin Jefferson, they see him on social media a ton, they see his dance moves, and all of that is affected and accounted for people's decision on who is the best wide receiver in the NFL. But Odell Beckham, when healthy and when the quarterback is right, it is indeed a top 10 wide receiver in this NFL. And me personally, I'm hoping he gets back there, even though Cleveland could be a problem for the Bills in this NFL season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with the single thing you said. Odell Beckham Jr. was a guy that, like you said, got a bad rap. People kind of looked at him as a diva, maybe a locker room problem perhaps. But I think it's safe to say that it just could be written off as, competitiveness. He's not only a guy that brings it on the field, but he's one of those guys that's going to bring it off the field as well. And I think that's imperative to an offense. And, for a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., I would completely agree that he is, when healthy, a top wide receiver, arguably the top wide receiver in the NFL. What he was doing with the Giants his first couple of years was something that I feel like we really haven't seen, beside for maybe Julio Jones in terms of what he can do after the catch. I mean, Odell Beckham was a special species for those first couple of years, and I really hope he is able to return to that form himself.
Most definitely. And before we get off this topic, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before Odell Beckham's injury, there's been a lot of chatter. We love to chatter about Buffalo Bills and the teams and scenarios. And the chatter was early this season, John Brown for Odell Beckham. Would you make that trade if you was the Bills GM? So I wanted to ask you, with John Brown on the team last year, if the opportunity presented itself, would you have traded a John Brown for an Odell Beckham Jr.?
Is this just a straight up? We're not talking any other capital. This is just 1-for-1 you're talking?
Just for the sake of the argument, straight up.
Okay. Yeah, no brainer. Absolutely. I think, if you happen to catch Odell Beckham healthy, I mean, you don't even, I mean, not to put it this way, not to sound the way it's about to sound, but you get Odell Beckham, you don't need Stephon Diggs even. I mean, and if Stephon Diggs is there, that's just an added plus. But
exactly,
yeah, no question in my mind. I would have taken Odell Beckham, and people can call him a diva, people call him a locker room problem, call him whatever you want. Yeah,
playmaker.
He's a playmaker. He gets it done on the field, and that's the bottom line. And a guy like Odell Beckham Jr., he just needs the ball. It's almost kind of like similar to what Stephon Diggs went through. He just wanted the ball. You just need to get the ball to this guy, and he's going to do the rest. And I think Josh Allen's the best at that in terms of making sure his playmakers have the ball in his hands. And yeah, that would have been talk about a lethal combination. That would have been That would have been scary. All right, the next question I asked was over under how many games, or over under 2.5 games do you see Jacoby Brissett taking over for Tua? You said over, right? If I'm not mistaken. That's interesting. Yep. Now, last week Justice asked me a question. Do you think he asked me? I think it was. Do you see Jacoby Brissett having more passing yards than Tua? And that question struck me very odd because I didn't really. It's just all dependent on how much we're going to see him, and that's what led me to ask this question to you: how many games we're actually going to see Jacoby Brissett? Over 2.5. Now that'll be something very interesting because I think Brian Flores, although he was very quick to take out Ryan Fitzpatrick or take out Tua, in the given situation, I do think he just was trying to see what Tua had to offer. And he just continued to throw him out there, almost like even when he was doing horrible, he just kept throwing him out there, right? And I think this year it's going to be different because he was doing that for Tua's benefit. I don't think he's going to be as quick to pull out Tua if things aren't going necessarily correctly.
And so I'm basing this strictly on Tua and durability. I'm not sure if Tua, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he has injury concerns or health issues or any of that sort, but just I witnessed the injury in college with Tua, and it was a significant injury. And I just look at his body. We'll see. I haven't seen him over the summer. Maybe he put on weight, but I just looked at his body. He was kind of frail, and on top of that, he's not really athletic. Yeah. We're in the NFL now where Drew Bledsoes of the world don't exist. That's why guys like Nick Foles struggle and guys like Andy Dalton struggle now because they're not mobile quarterbacks. They're dinosaurs in the pocket. And I think Tua, while he has a little bit more athleticism, I don't think he's as mobile as a lot of the young quarterbacks today. And combine that with the fact that I don't know if he's able to withstand punishment throughout 16 games. I think that Jacoby Brissett was brought to the Miami Dolphins to play a bigger role than one might think.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point you bring up because, like you said, the Drew Bledsoes don't exist in this league, and last year, I talked about the same thing with Justice. Tua played against the Denver Broncos. The dude threw for like 80 passing yards in 3.5 quarters. He got sacked 7 times. Like that, you can't play in the NFL, expect to get by getting sacked 7 times. And that just goes to show that he can't get away like all these other athletes can. Like these defensive ends, these safeties, these linebackers, they're quick. Right? If you can't get away, you're going to struggle in this league, like you mentioned. So that's an interesting point that I didn't even consider. That maybe Tua takes the wrong hit because he just can't escape. So that's
right.
That's definitely something to think about. I would probably say, that thought aside, assuming he's able to stay healthy, I think it will be under, only because I really think Brian Flores is, just going to leave him out there and just hope he figures it out by himself. Because last year, I don't think the process of taking him out when things weren't going well, that obviously didn't do all that much for him. Maybe just leaving him out there, letting him suffer, letting him figure it out will be the better way to go.
Possibly. We'll see what happens with him.
Final question was, have you allowed yourself to like Tom Brady? I think we can let that topic die. I don't think we need to talk about Tom Brady too much. He gets enough airtime, right?
Yeah, man. I just, but I understand what people say. You know what I mean? He's not tormenting the Bills. He's with Tampa Bay. He's on the other side. He won the Super Bowl without having to torment the Bills. So the NFL can't say, well, he's just destroying the AFC East, right? So I understand why he could become more likable. He's out there. He's mixing it up. He's being funny on social media. I get it. Yeah. But in here, I have all the losses replaying in my head every time I look at Tom Brady. Every time I see that smirk on his face, another loss comes to mind.
Yep.
So I would never have no love for Tom Brady. But at the same time, I do appreciate greatness. I do understand and realize that when he's retired and when he's gone, we might not see a player like that. So as much as I hate him, I appreciate him here while he's here, because we're not going to see quarterbacks of that great magnitude much longer.
Yeah, I completely agree. You gotta respect greatness when it's here. It's kind of the same thing with LeBron James, right? I mean, it's LeBron James. You either love him or you hate him, and people that even hate him, you just have to respect what he's doing right now. And once he's gone, we might never see another LeBron James. People probably thought that about Michael Jordan, but then LeBron James came and made his own name. But nevertheless, you just gotta respect. You gotta respect what you got. And I've always thought, and I made a video about this a while ago. It was a few months ago. Somebody like me, I'm only 20, so I wasn't, I would say
you're only 20.
I am.
You're 30.
Well, thank you.
I'm joking.
Anyway, yeah. So I'm on the younger side of things, right? I did not have to necessarily live through every single beatdown that Tom Brady gave the Buffalo Bills. I was alive, but I was 11, 12. I really didn't know. I didn't have to live through every single beatdown. So I guess I could be a little more forgiving in that aspect, because I don't have every single loss come popping up in my head, because I was not a football fan for every single loss. So I always thought that was interesting. Maybe that plays a factor.
That does. That definitely does.
Yeah. Because my dad himself, he's like, he calls Tom Brady the devil. He hates Tom Brady. And
hates Tom Brady.
Can't blame him. All right. So let's get into the final game. This game, I really want to try out. I think it's going to go well. It's called Brain Freeze. I'm going to give you a scenario, a game-like scenario that has happened before. And you're going to have to figure out what is wrong with the scenario. So,
Gotcha.
Like I gave you in the before we started.
Gotcha.
You get the gist.
Yep.
All right. So this is the first scenario. Rookie Josh Allen scrambles in the. This is the easy one. Hold on. This is the easy one. I go easy, medium, hard. Rookie Josh Allen scrambles in the backfield late in the game against the Dolphins to heave a last-ditch effort into the end zone to a wide-open Charles Clay, but it falls incomplete. Is this 100% correct?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
100% correct. Yes.
Correct. Second one. This is the medium one. The Vikings were down late in the game with their playoff hopes on the line. Kirk Cousins hits Stephon Diggs along the sideline where he runs across the goal line, cementing the Minneapolis Miracle into history. Is this 100% correct?
That's false. That's not 100% correct.
Why is that?
So you said the game was on a. Okay, you're gonna have to repeat it for me to tell you. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. The Vikings were down late in the game with their playoff hopes on the line. Kirk Cousins throws a dart to Stephon Diggs along the sideline, who turns upfield and runs it across the goal line, cementing the Minneapolis Miracle in history.
Okay, so the playoff hopes is on the line. Okay, so it may be true because their playoff hopes was on the line when he threw the pass. So that is true. It
is true. The thing that's actually false about it is that it was Case Keenum that threw the pass. It was not Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
And that's something it's so weird to think about because
brain fart, mental.
Yep. It's something that you just never would catch, and that's something I was kind of hoping that's how it would go. But
I was supposed to catch that. That was a good one. Let's get to the hard one. Let me make up for it.
All right, this is a tough one. This is going to be a really hard one, but I'm sure you'll remember the play once I mention it. The Bills are playing the Jets in a meaningless Week 17 game in 2016. The Jets are up by a large margin late in the game when they kick off to the Bills. The ball bounces short of the end zone and rolls across the goal line. Bills running back Carlos Williams watches it roll in but doesn't scoop it up, and the Jets recovered in the end zone for a touchdown. Is this 100% correct?
Oh, shit.
Do you remember the play I'm talking about?
Vaguely. I remember it vaguely, yes. Yeah. I'm probably going to get this shit wrong, but no, it's not 100% correct. But I can't tell you why, because it was a while ago. This is a really hard one. The reason it's not correct
is because it was Mike Gillislee that watched the ball.
It was
roll
Mike
into the end zone.
Gillislee. Okay.
Yes, not Carlos Williams. So that was hard. Like I wasn't sure how to really gauge these type of questions.
No, but that's good. That's good, and it's good that we did it, so you know how to attack it for the next one. So that was good.
Absolutely, because that last one's hard.
Yeah, it's tough. So was Gillislee and Carlos Williams actually on the? They was on the team at the same year, right?
I believe so. I think that's the catch.
That's the catch.
I can't. It's like it's one of those things where because when I first thought of the question, it was one of those things where it was such a gray area that I actually wasn't sure. So I did have to go back and check. I didn't have a clue before I knew it.
Right.
And I'm like, I thought for sure it was like the first thought was Carlos Williams. Like it was him that did not pick the ball, but it was actually Mike Gillislee.
Mike Gillislee.
They kind of fall in the same like range of like
I like it.
Weird running backs that we had at some point. I don't know. It's just
I like it. I like it. That was a hard one.
You got any questions for me? Hey, Rich? Anything else you want to shoot the shit on?
No, man. I think we did a good job covering most of the things you wanted to cover for the day, and this was excellent because we're being diverse in what we want to do and what we want to talk about. There's a bunch of Bills content, creators, and for you to be innovative the way you are, I think is brilliance, man. It's brilliance, and I appreciate you for having me on your show.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that a lot. I'm trying really hard, especially with the videos I put up on the BiB channel, talking about the Bills all the time. It's hard, so I really try and keep it NFL diverse, just try and spice things up. So I really appreciate you acknowledging the effort there. That means a lot. And it was a pleasure having you on. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Likewise.
So there we go. Episode 3 of Coach Me Up in the books. I hope you enjoyed it. Rich was a pleasure to have on, just as all my guests have been. It was just a blast to have conversation with these guys. Slowly but surely, like I've been saying, I will figure out the kinks with this series. Once I do, I think it's going to really take off. Nevertheless, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know any thoughts you might have down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, and I hope you did, please like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. If you want to hit the bell to be notified when I upload, I would appreciate that. If you want to go over to Twitter, follow me over there. I would appreciate that as well. I'm a part of the Built-in Buffalo content creation team. Be sure to follow and subscribe to them on any social medias that you may have, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.